with my husband.
Tia, welcome back to Marketing with My Husband. It's nice for me to be introing the next episode.
Nice intro, yeah. I rate it.
Marketing with My Husband, and Eddie is back again for a remake. Here he is.
I love how if someone's been listening to it on like audio, no video, they're like, who is Eddie?
Yeah, true. Just to clarify, Eddie is our little black poodle that doesn't like to be left alone, and he screams and squeals if you leave him upstairs. So he's forced himself as part of the podcast.
It's because mum is his favorite, aka me.
Today, Tia, let's kick off with your recommendation of the week.
Recommendation. I forgot about the recommendation. Okay. Can I say revelation?
Yeah, sure. Let's change it up.
Change it. Recent revelation. I would say I have this thing where recently I want to really work on like my body in a sense of like my stretching.
Mhm.
So I've recently had this revelation where I'm like, I could have all the success in the world with work, you know, really commit myself to work and all of those things, but heavily I'm sitting in a desk and I'm looking at a computer screen. So my revelation is that I'm approaching 28. I think, by the time this airs, I will be 28 years old. And for me, I'm just like, I need to stretch my body. I need to move my body more. I really don't want to have all this success and, you know, all of this achievements in my career, but have at the sacrifice of my body. So that's a really recent revelation I've had, which I think about a lot. Yeah.
That's really cool to hear, especially knowing that you owned a gym for 5 years, that now after you've moved on from that venture that you've realized maybe I should start stretching.
Hey, I stretched when we owned the gym.
Okay.
I was way more athletically inclined, loosely, when we owned the gym. What about you? What's your recommendation?
My recommendation is to buy a pair of jeans.
Oh my God.
Yep. I actually, in the last few months, bought a pair of New Balance runners and a pair of jeans, which is like my total would never have bought. That's like full dad mode.
Do you wear them together?
No, I've not worn them together, but I can wear jeans with some Sambas. I've learned are cool. I always look to my cool people to tell me what cool is. Although my uncle was wearing the same shoes, so
To be honest, I was impressed when we rocked up to Mother's Day lunch and I looked over and your Uncle Anthony, I was like, are those Adidas? I was like, what are you wearing? He's like, yeah, the girl said they were cool. I was like, nice.
it's amazing what marketing does to people. It makes old things come back. Like Adidas was an Eshe brand, wasn't it? And now it's
I don't know if Adidas was Eshe.
no.
Mm,
I think it is. It was.
I don't think Adidas was like Eshe. I think Adidas was definitely like skater, maybe.
Okay.
But I would say it's definitely come back in. I feel like everyone I look at nowadays is rocking like a pair of New Balance, or a pair of Adidas shoes. Nike is definitely still in, but I feel like it's the real flat, flowy jeans. I feel like it's kind of like this nice winter shoe that's come in. I feel like everyone's kind of rocking to it for winter.
Yeah, well, I learnt that my Asics were uncool, so I had to get a new pair. Basically, from you and all my friends told me, "Oh yeah, your Asics." Yeah, I didn't want to say it, but they're actually pretty gross. It's like, oh, cool. Anyway, moving on. We're actually today talking about our previous life of ours, and actually is the gym. It's funny you bring up stretching. The marketing that we did for the gym as like we were young, we were 21, 22, and we did that for about 5 years. And the lessons that we learned, us being in the gym industry actually probably taught us a lot. And if we were to go back now after being in the real estate industry, the things we would have done differently are crazy, right? We would do so many different things. But the things that today we're going to talk about what we did, what was successful, what didn't work, and just give you people understanding of maybe a few different marketing ideas that you can do. It doesn't necessarily have to be for a gym, but how you can relate that to your business.
I think for sure. I think you went and had coffee with someone last week and she kind of like, she loved the podcast, avid listener. Shout out to Jess. And she basically said to you was, I don't actually know why I'm listening to you.
Yeah.
Like I love listening to you guys and I learn a lot, but I actually don't know why. And I think, you know, in a previous episode, we spoke about our journey in real estate in the last 12 months and what that has looked like. And I think for now it's, you know, well, what was pre-real estate? And pre-real estate was we called it a high performance center for 5 years. For the first 2.5 years of that, I ran a marketing agency inside that high performance center to basically fund a lot of the advertising and expenses that the gym arose. So I worked with, a handful of clients that really funded that venture whilst also working, part-time in a marketing role at the same time. So I think at that period of time, I was part-time for a beauty client of mine that wanted more of a hybrid situation. So I was doing like 2 days a week, I think, maybe even 3 days. I was running about 5 clients with the marketing agency, and then I was obviously running all the marketing and the operations for the gym as much as I could, whilst you were training, clients at the gym, running sports trainer, and also running the other side of the operations for the gym.
Mm.
So we were busy bees.
We were, and genuinely, I remember sitting down and talking about, our finances and expenses, and I'm like, okay, well, if I bring in $100,000 worth of clients, and that will pay for the gym and a bit extra staff, and we should be fine. And that's like at 21 years old, and then you're like, oh no, we need like $200,000 to make this work if it's going to be successful, because you've got to invest in ads, and you've got to invest in full-time staff members, and then you've got to invest in cleaners, and then insurance, and
I distinctly remember the conversation when we bought the gym. So to take it like all the way back, I think people may have heard you speak at the one conference and you kind of said the journey. But I remember we lived in an apartment in Chermside in Brisbane, and you had just left like your previous allied health facility that you worked at. You had moved over to this new facility, which was, we call like a tin shed. It was a bit of a tin shed vibe, but you brought your clients over. We were actually at this point where I was running the marketing agency. I had some sustained clients. I remember eating, this is a core memory I have here, pad thai on a Friday at 12 p.m. And we went to like some Thai restaurant. And I remember saying to you, I'm like, this is the life. This is the life you want to live. I remember having like a mocktail and we were eating it and it was like 12 p.m. on a Friday. And because we were basically like, we picked and choose when we worked. And I remember it was like the week later, you're like, okay, babe. So Steve has come to me and Steve's offered me to buy the gym. And I was like, what? What do you mean? Because at that same time, I was like, we had enough money saved that I was like, Dan, we should buy a villa in Bali. And you were like, no, I'm not going to Bali. And I was like, it'd be so cool. We could run a marketing agency. We could live in Bali. And you're like, yeah, well, I've been offered to buy the gym and I think we should buy the gym. And it was a constant like back and forth. And I distinctly remember the night we decided to buy the gym. We're in the elevator in the Chermside apartment. And I was like, we're not buying it. I was like, I'm done. I'm done with this conversation. We're not buying the gym. And then you were like, we are buying it. We should buy it. It's an opportunity. And a lady walks in the elevator. We didn't say anything to each other. We rode the whole way up. We got out. We're like in the hallway. We got in the door. And then you're like, I just think, what's the worst that could happen? And I was like, you really want to buy this gym? You were like, yes, marketing. I'm in exercise science. Babe, we could do this. And I was like, okay.
yeah.
So we bought a gym.
February 1st, 2019 was the
Yes.
day the doors opened. And that's when it all started happening. We realized, okay, all this money we had saved, we'd invested into the initial startup and buying it, and then extra equipment. So we had like not much left to our names, which makes it hard when you're 21 years old. But at least we had clients and we had other businesses.
We had the best family support.
Yeah.
If you cut it back, like we had, your whole family that just basically jumped in and helped us, whether that was like painting
Yep.
the walls, whether it was like building furniture, whether it was, I remember, so we opened on the 1st of February 2019. Our broker, our finance was meant to be approved by, I think, was it the 10th of January? It didn't come all the way through until like the very end. And it's like your uncle stepped in and helped us. And it was like, it was so stressful. Like I remember like having the keys in my hand to the gym and like done the handover, and it's just like finance just still wasn't approved. And it was like meant to be coming in that for like 24-hour period. And I remember being so stressed. And then you open, I just distinctly remember we obviously did our due diligence beforehand, but like books can be dodgy, things can be done. And I remember opening like the booking system and looking at it and going, okay, cool. So like the money he said this gym made, it's like $3,000 deficit to what he said it made. So we've now got this $3,000 deficit every week
Yep.
that we've got to make up. And I think that's why the marketing agent, basically I worked for free for a year and a half, maybe 2 years. Everything I made in the marketing agency fund the gym. And I remember there were some days where I was like, I'm working for free. I don't want to work anymore. And you were like, it's for the bigger picture.
I was definitely a bigger picture guy. Always am.
You are. And I appreciate that about you.
So the doors are open. Do you want to tell everyone the marketing like what you put into marketing, like what's the idea? What are we going to do here?
I think the idea was to make the gym a culture hub. I think we knew we weren't the biggest and best gym. Like, let's be real, we makeshifted our weightlifting platforms out of timber and we made them, we handmade them, we painted the entire gym, we did everything by hand. So we knew we weren't the ritziest gym you could go to. But it's like, okay, what do we have on our side? I think that was our first thing we said. Well, what do we have? Okay, we have exercise scientists and yourself that are extremely good at like rehabilitation training. So we went, okay, let's change this up. Let's create a class schedule that reflects that. Let's make sure that our gym memberships are super cheap and let's make sure that we have experts in to train those people. So the first thing we did was we came in and we with our marketing is we wanted it to be culture centered. So like there wasn't a time when it was either me or you didn't have a camera in our hand. We trained all of our trainers at the gym to always have a camera in your hand. If you appeared on the Resistance, SS Instagram, we were either like making fun of you in a like a lighthearted way with a gym joke, or we were, lifting it up because you just hit a PB. It felt like this like really community centric, like, oh, Dan and Tia put me on their Instagram. Like to this day, I still have members that were members of ours for years that reach out. And like, if I put up a photo of a lolly jar, they're like, oh, the RSS days where Tia had the lolly jar in the gym. Or it's like, I put up something, about a big win or something. And I've got, like Izzy Hartog or Abigail Harris and all these people that are like the goats because it was all based around connection, our marketing, all based around community, really.
Yeah, it got to the point where we were really encouraging it, and like I guess a big part of our audience was teenagers, like high performing teenagers that were looking to make elite sport. That was our real niche.
Mm.
That they would get involved. They would take a few TikToks and Instagrams and they'd be super proud to be there. And we had a lot of, well, not a lot, but we had a strong amount of really good high performing athletes that were like Commonwealth game level or playing for like the Reds or someone like that. That would come in and boost the morale too. And then people would come in and be involved and they'd be like, oh my God, that's Clara, the professional race walker.
Okay, we'll talk about then. So if we take it back to that, can you talk about the pivotal branding shift we had
Mm.
to change it from, because when we started, it was, mums and dads, everyday gym members. It was really in that, like, I want to say that sort of like year and a half mark where we really traditioned and we just went straight for athletes. And as soon as we did, it was like a magnet.
Yeah. So we always wanted to work with athletes. I guess my background being exercise and sports science, and I was fairly athletic myself. I wanted to work with that same demographic. And originally we were throwing out memberships for like $10 a week, hoping
9.95.
$9.95 a week with a $10 fob fee with like, oh God, is it $10 too much for people? I don't know. We were trying to compete, but then we realized we were just attracting just everyday people that weren't adding to the culture. They just wanted to train at 5 a.m. and leave or come in at 8 p.m. and leave. So we're like, let's start something. Let's market a new program, amateur to athlete. That was our first one. And the idea was, okay, it's not going to deter mums and dads because we're still too scared to get rid of all of them because what happens if financially that doesn't happen for us. So we had it was a bit of a marketing campaign, probably went for about 3 or 4 weeks.
I remember, to just take it back for people, like our conversations, Dan's parents at the time lived in Ormo. We lived at Richlands. So it was about a 45-minute drive home, and we would go there almost every Sunday.
Mhm.
And we would go there and we would digress and we would have this like family lunch and we would talk about it. It was really important, I think, at that stage of our life to have our family around as our support network, to bounce conversation, ideas, all of it.
Mhm.
And every single time we're in the car ride home, we've got Jasper and Eddie in the back, we're driving, and we would say, what is our next marketing campaign? What is it? What is it? We need to figure this out because we just kept going like we're missing the mark.
Yeah.
And I remember distinctly that Sunday, and it was like, you were like, what if we just did something where it was like amateur to athlete? What if we took our everyday people and we made them feel like athletes and we trained them like that?
Mhm.
And I remember we're like, okay, all right, could be worth it. Remember coming up with the logo for the program, coming up with the entire exercise program, launching it on socials. I think at that time we didn't have a lot of money to spend. Maybe we put $500 behind ads to really promote it. Well, we had 25 people sign up for that program, brand new people into
Yep.
the business.
Yeah, and it was about $45 a week for memory, the membership for 25 people. So we're like, huh, oh my God, okay, things are looking up. This is good. This is kind of who we want to work with in a sense. It's getting there.
Mm,
And they're paying a little bit more. Like $10 a week doesn't cut it. Like you can't have 1,000 members in that shed to make it
yeah,
work. So
exactly.
we did the program. It went successfully. Nothing went wrong. Touch wood. Still hasn't. And people were happy. Then the dreaded time of COVID happened.
Yeah.
And again, we hadn't gone up to that level where we're just working with athletes. It was sort of that people training like athletes now.
Mm.
That's where we got to, training them a bit differently. COVID hit and we had the opportunity. Okay, we're like, it's shut down. We actually, as I mentioned at the one conference, but we rented out all of our equipment.
The whole place was bare to the point where some of the equipment we didn't get back
Yeah.
because it was a risk. I think most people were pretty good about it. And they thought this community gym has rented their equipment. I'll bring it back. Some people we ended up saying, you've paid so much for the equipment. Please keep it. We've upgraded it. Some people just blatantly stole our equipment, but that's fine. It
Yeah.
was a hard time for everyone.
50 cents a kilo is what we rented out for, and the whole gym was taken. So we're looking at thousands and thousands worth of kilos of weight that was rented out. That actually provided a bit of income for us to go, okay, now what's the next marketing plan? And you and I I don't know, for me personally, that was the period of my life where I was like, I love marketing. I love creating something from absolutely nothing, just an idea from a puff of smoke and something that we just brought up in the living room. So then go, let's see if we can actually make people go, oh, that seems cool. I want to invest in that. I want to pay for that.
I think we've always been really good at investing in ourselves.
Mm.
So, like, whilst, I think it's a risk. It's definitely a risk. But I think that point in COVID, right? We've built up our business so much. We're getting that momentum. I remember being in conversations with rehabilitation centers and things that we were going to do to the business. COVID hits.
Yeah.
Everything comes to like a crashing halt. No one now, recovery centers you can't even step into because, there's social distancing rules. All of this basically comes to like this pivotal point.
Yeah.
And I remember once we rented out all our equipment, we just looked at each other and we went, okay, we've got this amount of money. And I remember speaking with Pat, our landlord for the business, and he said, look, I'm going to pause all your rent payments during COVID, which again, we're so grateful. Not everyone was in that position. He was getting benefits from the government. So he said, I will pause your rent payments.
Yep.
So we had that whole period of COVID where we weren't paying rent on a building and we had income coming in. So we turned around and we went, okay, he's looked after us. Let's look after him. The gym was shut. So we spent, I think, however long COVID was, we spent days and days in that gym painting it, renovating it. We got a professional painter in to paint the whole building.
Mm.
And I remember he went, guys, what's the color code? Because I'm going to paint all my buildings that color. We gave it this refresh. And the distinct thing we did that brought like so many people to our business was on the door. We rebranded as the Athlete Hub and we put it on the door, the Athlete Hub. We don't care if you don't want to work with us and you're not an athlete, like you can still train here, but we are a high performance facility and everything we do in here will be custom. You will get custom programs. You'll have access to the Athlete Hub, the Rehab Hub, our physios. We basically just created everything we wanted to create from the beginning, but we had that pivotal point in COVID to create it.
And it was like a nothing to lose sort of feeling. It's like, let's just have a crack at this because we've been talking about it for a few years. Now is the perfect time to make a full change. While the gym is shut down, we can renovate it, we can revamp it, and then we can make a big noise and lots of explosion about the fact that we've relaunched. And like you did the whole website change, there was new logos, there was you name it, everything. And I think from the moment we actually did it and we reopened and we told the world, because we actually had a big following, like 12,000 people on socials, which was pretty cool especially then.
Yeah.
And we launched it to the world and that's who started calling. And that's one of the biggest things I took away from the gym was that if you put yourself out there, you attract what you put out. And we had athletes then ringing saying, you guys are obviously where I need to go for my performance or my rehabilitation training, because that's all we promoted. That's all we put on the website. And that's all we put on socials, like new athlete joined or this netball athlete. This is their routine. We're doing calf jumps.
We were like out on weekends filming.
Yeah.
Like our weekends were going to our clubs, filming our athletes that trained in our gym, at game day. We were supporting local clubs we had done sports trainer for. Like we were very heavily in that sporting world for that. I want to say we had the gym for 5 years, but for the last 3 years of it, we were heavily in the sporting world to the point where we set up systems where we would sponsor athletes. Every sort of quarter we would sponsor 5 athletes that we would say, okay, you get to train here for free. This is everything we're going to do for you. But in return, we're going to put you out on social media. And we would have like what we called athlete media days, where it'd be like a whole day where you come into the gym, we're going to film you and we're going to film your process. And you're basically an ambassador for our gym.
Mm.
And then you roll into where the business ended up is we ended up, supplying sports trainers and athletic trainers to like sports clubs, AFL clubs, soccer clubs all over Queensland, to the point where it ended up in the end where we end up, with this sports tape business. Like it kind of all funneled each other. And if we go back to our last episode where we were talking about, or one of our last episodes talking about Ryan Serhan and that ecosystem in real estate, we kind of created an ecosystem in that gym,
Mm.
athletic space, that everything kind of fed each other and it gave you a purpose. You went to Resistance because you knew, oh, well, they look after everything.
Yeah, and that's one thing we brought into real estate straight away was that we wanted to really show the world our ecosystem. So we had massage therapists, we had chiros, physios, sports science, you name it. We had the right people,
Dietitians.
dietitians, exactly. And we would try and promote them equally all the time to like, well, maybe you can come check out our dietitian program. Or as part of joining a membership, you'll get 1 to 2 physio sessions for free a week. And we started implementing that, telling the world our story and what we're doing differently. And yeah, it was really, really cool to be a part of. Obviously, in the end, we actually, because of real estate, we shut the gym business down because of the expenses and everything it was costing us to then go purely into the sports trainer world where we supplied physios and medics. But the marketing didn't stop there either. It's like, well, now we're kind of an agency for sports trainers and physios for
We
clubs.
completely rebranded. We went to RST.
Yeah.
So we went from Resistance Sports Science to Resistance Sports Trainers. And that was our way of kind of evolving to the next space. We really saw that, well, we were heavily working with the clubs and that was everything we were doing. The gym kind of became this expense thing. We had to move location. So we thought, okay, why don't we transition into our next phase? And what I find really cool today is that business is still around, Resistance Sports Trainers. It's just past hands. So it's actually with the boys from Motion Health. And they're actually now feeding it to their ecosystem
Yep.
whilst running Resistance Sports Trainers on the side. And I love looking at it. I love, sometimes looking back and going, cool, that's a Resistance Sports Trainer at that club. And that's something I started, 6, 7 years ago with my husband in my early 20s that I grinded, and that business is still around. I think that's a massive achievement for both of us. And I'm super proud of it.
The cool thing was there was only real 2 big players in that space, which I loved. Like, in the gym world, there was so many, and it was really cool businesses that, honestly, if we were working there, we probably would've loved it, but at the time, we're like, "They're the
You're
enemy,"
the enemy.
which I'd now catch up and definitely have a coffee with them if I could.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was only really probably 2 big players in the sports trainer space, so we actually had the coolest opportunity, and this reminds me of, like, joining AKG, of, like, the digital presence of the competitors weren't really there, so if we were to really go hard and say, "Well, by joining us, not only do you get trainers, but we'll also help you with your social media presence and boost your players and become like an recruitment attraction agency for your sports club,"
Yep.
same as we're doing at
And it
real
was the
estate.
same with the trainers. Like the trainers would join us because they would go, oh, RST, they're going to give me social exposure. They've got the clients. They're going to build my professional, skills.
Yep.
So it was this like hand in hand thing. And I think I look at it now and I think it's taught me so much. I think being in marketing for as long as I was in the beauty space, in e-commerce, I actually said to you the other night, which is baffles me. We were watching a documentary on basically this secondhand clothing business, and they was talking about the e-commerce system about how you can upload a reference photo and it will find you clothing that matches that.
Mm.
And I actually sat back and went, wow, I haven't been in e-commerce for over 7 years. That's insane to me.
Mm.
Like, e-commerce was my bread and butter. Like, how are we converting a sale, like advertising, all of this stuff. And I'm like, I look at it now and I go, wow, e-commerce has changed so much. I'd be so out of depth, I think, if I stepped into an e-commerce brand and helped them with their marketing.
I feel like I'd be out of depth in gym as well now.
Oh,
It's
definitely.
progressing so quickly. It's about the coolest, fanciest lights and programs and trainers, and it's so digital now. Like, I think Pilates is
It wasn't as digital as what it was when we started. Like, I remember after COVID, I was in the gym full time after COVID and I had a camera in my hand every single day filming constantly. no matter what it was. And I look back and I think not many people were doing it. Not many people were doing it back then. But now I completely agree. If we were to step into the gym world, it'd be insane. So I asked you
We'd have a
that.
crack.
I reckon we'd be able to do it, but it'd be hard. So I ask you on that. Okay, we take away all of that. What have you learnt from real estate
Mhm.
to bring that back to if you were to do the gym again, which I never would. I would never do the gym again. The gym was a grunt. It has made me who I am today, but she shall live in the past.
Yeah.
But what have you learned from real estate to bring that back to what you would have done differently in the gym? And then what have you learned from the gym days that has helped you, I think, excel in real estate in marketing?
Good question. Real estate has taught me that recruitment is the number one target for most businesses. Like if we had have attracted, if our marketing plan, which we didn't know as a 22-year-old, was to target the best trainers, then we would have got the best athletes to want to join us because the trainers were amazing. However, a lot of my thinking, original thinking as a early 20s was let's try and attract the athletes. Let's athletes, all of them. But we never sat down. I never spoke to the competition ever. I never just said hello, like, hey, we should get a coffee and talk about the challenges that you go through
Definitely.
and be the person of at some point, if they're not happy and they want to change, they can actually look and go, hey, Dan, you know what? I've got a client list of 50 clients and I need a home. I prefer to bring them over to you. Would you take me on? Oh my God. If someone had have done that back in the day, we would have had many gym chains, but something
I know.
I just didn't understand.
I think real estate for me, just I know I asked you the question,
No, go.
but real estate for me, and I really learnt it from our first group that we were in real estate. I'm never going to mention them by name, but the first group we were with, I really learnt like, look, to their credit, they really taught me about like the customer journey and like validating your customer, like in a sense of like settlement gifts and like what you would do when they sign up, like that extra detail to go that extra mile.
Yeah.
They had a program called Client for Life. There was a few things there that while so much, needed work in that business, there were a few things there that they definitely taught me and taught me really well that I used to think, wow, if we had the gym today, what those actual things would have done for our business and how successful I think the gym could have been if I had known, I guess, those just few little things about real estate. And I think recruitment was a big one too, because we never looked at the trainers like that. We thought, no, they're the enemy. They're there, but rather than, "Oh, okay, well, how could we help you?" And then they bring their clients over. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, and build like a model around the trainers to give them so much support and value that, hey, we'll give you the social media support. We'll provide your own marketing to help you get more clients.
The ecosystem for the trainers as well.
Exactly.
Definitely.
I
What about what did the gym teach you for real estate?
Well, we touched on it earlier, but I think building a community online makes people feel a part of something. So if we look at real estate, all of our buyers and sellers, if they're a part of that community and they feel like they're a part of something bigger, then they're going to willingly do a testimonial or share their sold board photo and go, oh my God, I'm so happy. Thank you, Ray White AKG, for working with us and finding my dream home. Making the people, like the employees and the staff, a part of it shows the community. And that's what we did all the time. It was like, how can we show the people? How can we show our results? How can we show our facility and everything that we're doing consistently, with quality and creatively? I think it's the same, like whatever industry you go in, it's the same thing. If you can show behind the walls, you can show the people and your results, that people are going to gravitate towards that. They're a type of people will. And they're the ones that are going to work with you and go, I'm proud to be here.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I would say that's definitely our marketing formula that you and I do well. I think we have call it like a marketing dance, you and I. I think we kind of know the steps down pat. If we were to step into another business tomorrow, we know together what our first 6 to 12 months looks like. Again, really, we know that foundational period, I think, because we were in that period for so long with the gym business and we really like had time to perfect it. Then we go to another business and we kind of do that. We've gone to another business now and we've done it. And now it's like for me, I feel like we're hitting that next phase now. Like we've done the build phase. So it's like, okay, we've had the success from the build. So now what's the platform from that?
Yeah.
And to take it back to your community aspect, I would say, look, I shout her out all the time, but I highly agree. But Eliza Rees in AKG does it one of the best I've seen in a community aspect. She's got clients that tag her For those who don't know, Eliza Rees is an agent at Ray 1 AKG. She specializes in Greenbank area. She is so community centric. I sat with this woman and I said, okay, Eliza, I think we need to run an ad in your local community. You know, I think we need to put $1,000 behind the ad. You know what she told me? Tia, for $1,000, I could buy so many of my neighbors a bottle of wine. I'd rather do that. And I just looked at her and I went, you're brilliant in a way that you don't understand how brilliant you are. You still need to run an ad. We still need to do that. But I completely agree. Like, how community centric is that? Oh no, for that money, I could buy people gifts. And like, she's doing Halloween gifts at Christmas time. She's out there in Christmas. She's at the local PCYC. Like her and her husband, Kane, like they are the most community centric people I know. And they've had success because of that. So I look at that in that marketing formula, they kind of give me a little bit of RSS vibes in the early days because they are just so community centric. If you've got clients that tag you in their stories about when they're setting up their home office, you've done a great job. So I think a lot can be taken from that sort of community centric marketing capability and, you know, really bringing people along the journey, because I think she does it really well.
So much to learn. If you're in the gym industry, I hope you can take a little bit from that. If you're like a physio or a sports scientist and like, what should I be doing? My biggest recommendation is get on socials and be consistent with it. Get your clients involved, collaborate with them, ask, hey, do you mind if I film you squatting and deadlifting? And do you mind if I put it on socials? I'd love people to see it, because I found that the more stories we posted in one day, the more business we created. If we put 15 stories up and made the gym look super busy, that it was humming, people go, oh my God, I want to be a part of that.
And always worked in backs too. So I would always remember if we had a really good social week, the next week the leads would really flow in really well. But if we had a bad week, we maybe didn't see the downturn that week, we would see it in 2 weeks' time. And I think real estate works very similar. I think any marketing does. I think the seed you plant today will prosper in the coming weeks for you. But if you're not planting anything today, then it's like in 3 weeks' time, you're going to feel it. You're going to go, oh, my leads are dried up. Like, what's going on? Like, I haven't got all these connection points, these engagements. It's like, oh, well, you actually stopped 3 weeks ago. So you can't expect it to come back up that quickly.
There's all things gym marketing.
There is all things gym marketing. Thank you for you were going to do the outro as well?
Oh, you did the outro.
I don't want to now.
Thank you for joining us on the Marketing with My podcast husband. Oh, no.
Thank you for listening to Marketing with My Husband. That's how it's done.
Marketing with My Husband.